This is CBC Vancouver News.
Tonight on CBC Vancouver News, another stabbing in Vancouver marks the city's 5th homicide of the year. And
there's young people here, and they're like 19 years old, 20 years old, and they deserve a shot.
Just days away from the annual homelessness count in our province, and we take a closer look at the people behind the numbers. Also,
speak on behalf of his people in any which way that he desires. Right up to mommy.
Thousands gather in Vancouver this weekend to commemorate the Nisga'a Nation's New Year festivities. Good evening, I'm Zahra Premji. Thanks for joining us. Leanne is away tonight. We begin in Vancouver's Killarney neighborhood, where a 22-year-old died after a stabbing in the area last night. Vancouver police say they were called to a home near Boundary Road and East 45th Avenue around 10 p.m. last night. Caleb Morin was taken to hospital where he died from his injuries. Police say they are still investigating and no arrests have been made.
So no arrests have been made. While that can obviously cause fear in the community that there is someone at large, we do believe there was some sort of relationship between the victim and the suspect. We don't know how well they knew each other. We don't know the circumstances around that. However, we don't believe that there is a public safety risk.
Mounties say there were 3 other stabbings in Vancouver over Friday night, 2 in the downtown east side and 1 in the west end, making it a total of 4 stabbings in a 10-hour span. An arrest was made in one of the downtown east side stabbings. All 4 incidents remain under investigation. To Maple Ridge now, where police say the body of a man was found in a parking lot earlier today, and they're calling his death suspicious. He was found near 218th Street and 122nd Avenue just after 7:30 this morning. Police say they understand there's concern because of the proximity to a school, and they're working to piece together what exactly happened. Now, Mounties are investigating another site, but it's unclear if the 2 sites are related. Homicide investigators have taken over the case. Avalanche control work is done, and it seems the Coquihalla Highway between Hope and Merritt is safe enough to be open again for now. That's after more than 24 hours of closures. The highway shut midday yesterday because of extreme weather and congestion. Crews conducted their avalanche control and then reopened the road around 4:30 this afternoon. The annual homelessness count is just days away in BC. It is the first real-time data collected since the COVID-19 pandemic began, and advocates are expecting the number to rise significantly. As the CBC's Janella Hamilton explains, advocates worry the struggles to find affordable housing will play a large factor in this count.
Little care packages with a granola bar, a scarf, socks.
Ed Grift and Shelley Stout are outreach workers with the Union Gospel Mission. Almost every day, the duo packs this van full of food and clothing donations before setting out to deliver the items to the most vulnerable across the Fraser Valley.
Typically on a day, we'll see, like the other day, we saw 65 people.
The Homelessness Services Association of BC did their last count in 2020, and they saw close to 900 people in the Fraser Valley unhoused. The outreach team says since then, they've seen more people living in bushes, under bridges, and by train tracks.
And they've noticed that there's been an increase in people experiencing homelessness here in the Fraser Valley, especially among youth and seniors.
Clay Lauder has been living on and off the streets since he moved to Mission 5 years ago.
There's young people here, and they're like 19 years old, 20 years old, and they deserve a shot.
The BC Coroner Service says close to 250 people experiencing homelessness died in 2021, a steep 75% spike over the number of lives lost in 2020. This woman says she's been searching for safe, affordable housing for months, often feeling like she has no place to go.
You don't have good credit? Credit or criminal record, and then they don't want to rent you, right?
And with shelter spaces limited, this man says he's seen a lot of new people traveling from community to community looking for a warm place to sleep.
Like you've seen grown men cry, right? Because it's so cold and it's hard to watch.
And even if they can secure shelter space, for some, they feel living outdoors in isolation is a safer option.
All the fighting and stuff always, right? No privacy. You know, everybody's always arguing with everybody else, right? And a lot of thieving going around.
It's not one thing, it's many things, many barriers that they're facing. So it's like, I know, Ed and I just come alongside them and meet them where they're at, and we come from a lens of love and compassion.
Thank you.
Good to see your smiling face today.
Oh, I'm always smiling.
Because I've met a lot of people there, you know, they're great. They had a job and they had a place to live, and then all of a sudden all it takes is one little hiccup, and then it drops you down again, and look at the price it costs to live here.
Advocates say the homeless count is about so much more than just numbers. It's about gaining an accurate understanding of who is living without housing, the reasons behind that, and what supports are needed.
We count people because people count. Every person has value.
Teams of volunteers will be combing through BC communities starting March 7th and 8th, and data will be collected until early May. Janella Hamilton, CBC News, Mission.
4 brave heroes were recognized today after playing a key role in helping save the life of a man who was playing basketball and collapsed during the game.
It really aligned for Stephen that there were people with training, the access of the AED. Those first moments make a huge difference. So when someone goes into this type of emergency, the first couple of minutes really make the critical difference. So we're really encouraging everyone to get CPR training, be aware, agencies and organizations to have AEDs on site and have them accessible to the public.
The Vital Link Award recognizes bystanders or members of the public who step in to provide critical moments of care between an emergency happening and emergency responders arriving, all in an effort to help them survive. Well, an exercise program in the Southeast Kootenays is working to keep seniors in shape. The Mobility Enhancement Program launched in Cranbrook this winter, and the main goal is to keep people moving with functional exercises. But as the CBC's Corey Bullock discovered, there's a bonus in this all, with participants also finding a sense of connection with others.
Ray Osborne takes part in the Mobility Enhancement Program in Cranbrook. He walks with a cane. Once a functional tool, it's now more of a fashion accessory, he says.
I'm 94 on the last 8th of February. For my age, I feel like a champ.
The Mobility Enhancement Program is for anyone who wants to improve their physical literacy. For Ray, it helps him stay on his feet.
If you want to get really serious about it and do the steps that are there available for you, it can be challenging. Yeah, because it really gets to your balance. And that's, of course, that's your whole life when you get old, is your balance.
Volunteer coaches are there to help guide the exercises.
We focus on balance, we focus on agility, we focus on coordination, and especially being able to shift our weight suddenly and prevent falling is a huge thing.
Participants also get to spend some time with friends.
They're dancing, they're singing, they're doing all these stretches and exercises, mental health, physical health, social well-being. These folks are not isolated at home right now. They're coming out in the middle of winter and they're having a lot of fun.
The program evolved out of a collaboration with the Physical Literacy Committee and the City of Cranbrook. Organizers hope to expand the program and, eventually, bring it to other communities.
We need basic functional skills in order to navigate our world. So physical literacy is just how we interact with our physical world.
The city says it's keen to continue the program into the summer. And as for the seniors, well, they're happy to continue walking, dancing, and exercising. Anything to keep their joints well-oiled. Corey Bullock, CBC News, Cranbrook.
Nearly 1 year after fleeing the war in Ukraine, one family is thriving and planning to make Canada their forever home. It all starts with tennis and a young star in the making coming to Canada with a dream. But as Yasmin Gandam reports, the journey has not been without its challenges.
13-year-old Timothy Treshenov has only been in Canada since April, but he's already among the best young tennis players in the province.
It's the best, hungry people in the world, and I want to be number one in there.
He's been playing since he was 4, but the war in Ukraine put his development in jeopardy. Enter the family-run Langley Tennis Center, whose patriarch Larry Jurovich connected with the Ukrainian Tennis Association and offered to sponsor several coaches, players, and their families, including Timothy, his parents, and his younger brother.
My parents are incredibly generous people. My dad, Larry, is the one who originally reached out. He's always been incredibly interested in helping people wherever he can. It means so much to have them here.
The center has been working to develop the Lower Mainland into an international model of best practice for a tennis community. They helped Timothy's mom and dad get jobs and even a place to stay.
It will take some time to rebuild our country, so for now it's the best way to growing up our kids, and I want that our family and especially my kids will be safe.
But there's a hurdle. Right now, the family says he can't compete in national tournaments because of residency requirements. The center is pushing for permanent residency for the family so Timothy can play.
He has a real shot. He's an amazing tennis player. I said he works the hardest on the court. And so now really what we're working for them is for them to be able to get permanent residency, because right now, and maybe not everybody knows it, but at least in the tennis community, you can't compete at the Canada-wide level without having permanent residency.
His days are long, and he's far away from home.
It's pretty tough because I wake up every morning in the 4 to ride to the practice, and after I go to the school, and after school I go to the tennis and I do my homework.
But it's safe to say for him and his family, Canada is a match. Yasmin Gandham, CBC News, Langley.
Well, the traditional New Year celebration of the Nisga'a Nation wrapped up today. Hobier is a large event being celebrated by thousands. It returned to in-person gathering after years of pandemic cancellations. 14 First Nations from across the province attended, with 600 dancers performing along with dozens of vendors showcasing their clothes, jewelry, and crafts. The nation says Hobier celebrations are critical in keeping the Nisga'a Nation's culture vibrant and strong, and a chance to restore the community's roots. Well, you've probably seen a lot of colorful characters around town if you're hanging out in Vancouver this weekend. That's because Rugby Sevens World Tournament is back in the city. Costumes, are as much a part of the tournament as the games on the pitch, so it's not unusual to see the Average Joe's dodgeball team mixing along with the group of Woodies from Toy Story. The Canadian men and women's rugby teams both recorded wins today, but only the women advanced to the quarterfinals. They faced New Zealand and lost 10-5. Well, it's that time of year again. The spring cookie campaign for the Girl Guides of Canada kicked off. And in case you were wondering which cookies they are, it's the classic chocolate and vanilla sandwich ones.
Up with that demand. We need hundreds more volunteers to support over 1,200 girls who are on our wait list right now to even join Girl Guides in British Columbia. By selling more cookies, we can expand our outreach in our communities, be more present, and engage even more girls and women in our organization.
Okay. The funds raised through sales help girls attend camps and participate in local programs and activities. And yes, the cookies too have seen an inflationary uptake in pricing for the first time in a decade. They'll be sold for $6 a box, which is a $1 increase from the previous year because of the rising costs of baking and shipping. Coming up, the storm that once again wreaked havoc on thousands on the East Coast. Southern Ontario is spending the weekend digging itself out of yet another major storm. We'll have the latest coming up after a quick break. There are signs that the battle for the control of the Ukrainian city of Bakhmut has entered a brutal new phase. Ukrainian forces are desperately trying to hold on to the city, but Russia is continuing to slowly tighten its grip. The CBC's Chris Reyes has the details.
With this bridge blown up, a key supply route into Bakhmut gone, adding to the increasing pressure on Ukrainian fighters to keep Russians at bay in the besieged city in the eastern part of the country. That work in some ways happening trench by trench, like these soldiers digging defense lines. Ukraine has been reinforcing the area with elite units as Russian forces led by the private military Wagner Group make further advances. On Friday, its founder Yevgeny Prigozhin released a video from Bakhmut urging Volodymyr Zelensky to withdraw troops and warning him that Russian forces are closing in. Today, another video from Prigozhin, this time in front of coffins. He said, "We're sending another shipment of Ukrainian fighters home. They fought bravely and perished. That's why the latest truck will take them back to the motherland." Months of intense fighting has left Bakhmut in ruins, with 2 bridges destroyed in the last couple days, getting in and out of the area even more dangerous. Despite the deadly toll, victory for either side may not be a big win, say some strategists.
It may be somewhat of a psychological victory, a morale victory, but it's really not going to make a major difference on how this war ends up.
What will make a major difference? Resources. The U.S. has announced another round of support, $400 million worth of military equipment, including ammunition and artillery.
It's clear by what we are giving them that we are no longer talking about defending, but now we're preparing the Ukrainian forces for an offensive operation.
They need ammunition. Ukrainians need lots of ammunition, and that's one reason this $400 million arms deal is so important.
Canada has already committed more than $1 billion in military aid for Ukraine. Today, Chief of the Defense Staff General Wayne Eyre said his visit to Kyiv was productive in checking in on how those resources are helping. Meanwhile, at the G20 meeting in India, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov was mocked for his take on the war.
The war which we are trying to stop and which was launched against us using the Ukrainian people.
Ukrainian soldiers on the ground in Bakhmut say retreating is not an option, would fear that Russian forces will keep taking more cities if this one falls into their hands. Chris Reyes, CBC News, New York.
Southern Ontario is digging out after a major winter storm. The system threw a wrench into travel plans of many and left thousands without power. As the CBC's Idil Musa reports, it came the same weekend. Some were turning their attention to how to combat the future and more frequent extreme weather.
A major snowfall in southern Ontario had people doing a lot of digging out.
Well, we were almost packing everything away and getting the lawn chairs out, but nope, sorry. Wishful thinking.
I looked outside and I saw that I couldn't pretty much get out and my snowblower broke down, so you can see it's sideways. So my day is going pretty bad in terms of equipment, but sun-wise and weather, that's why we got the little twins out.
Environment Canada says up to 30 centimeters of snow fell on the Greater Toronto area, causing dozens of flights at Pearson International Airport to be delayed or canceled. Scattered outages were also reported, affecting thousands of customers. How to respond to these types of situations is the focus of the training taking place at this Canadian military facility.
Our number one priority is ensuring the safety and security of Canadians. And so we want to be ready.
Members spent the day conducting a full-scale exercise simulating an emergency response to an ice storm.
They're using a synthetic environment, and so they're working actually with actors that are playing a variety of different roles.
It's a timely endeavor given the extremes in weather experienced in Ontario and across the country.
Any kind of preparedness that not just the military, but even the general public can do for themselves for these types of extremes is always going to be beneficial.
Southern Ontario experienced record-breaking mild temperatures to severe cold this season, and experts say these types of extremes are becoming more frequent. Idil Musa, CBC News, Toronto.
The UN's nuclear watchdog agency has reached an agreement with Iran on 2 issues involving the country's nuclear program. It came after the agency's chief's meetings with Iranian officials in Tehran. Iran says it will reinstall international monitoring equipment at some facilities and assist an investigation into uranium traces found at undeclared sites. Similar previous agreements have failed to achieve results, but a UN team is expected in Iran for follow-up within days. Now, for the 9th straight weekend, cities in Israel have witnessed protests against the government's court reform plan. Tens of thousands took part. A protest Wednesday saw clashes erupt with police. There were no reports of violence tonight, though. The proposed reforms would limit the Supreme Court's ability to rule against the government. The protesters say that puts civil liberties at risk. The government says it's aiming to prevent the court from taking on a political role. Now, opponents of Tunisia's president flooded the capital's main street today in what may have been the largest protest yet against his rule. It was staged by Tunisia's most powerful union, and it follows recent arrests of more than a dozen of President Kais Saied's most prominent critics. He shut down parliament in 2021, seizing almost all political powers. Today's protesters denounced what they called one-man rule and a police state. Another protest is planned for tomorrow. All right, here is a look at the Aurora Borealis captures from the International Space Station. All right, I'll also have your earthly full forecast coming up next. All right, the million-dollar question is always what's happening in the weather world, and I know it's been pretty indecisive lately. Let's start with the snowfall forecast and what we can expect. It's looking like we're going to have some traces of snow, of course, in the higher elevations. Looks like we might get 5 to 10 centimeters. Moving towards Whistler, you can see some snow over there, moving away from Vancouver, but a little bit near the Fraser Valley as well. Now let's take a look at the current temperatures out there right now. West Vancouver, 5 degrees, 6 degrees, so a little balmy at the Vancouver International Airport. The same, sitting around 4 degrees for Abbotsford. Looks like it's the chilliest over in Nanaimo on the island. But I know the big question really is, what's our 5-day forecast moving into our extended forecast? Well, on Sunday, it looks like we're going to have some rain showers sitting at a high of 6. A bit of Mr. Sun coming in for Monday and Tuesday, highs of 7 and 6. But it looks like it's going to continue to be wet weather for the week. I'm sorry if you were hoping to put the umbrella away. 8 degrees for Wednesday, Thursday, your highs. Friday, 9 degrees, popping back into the weekend. It's actually going to go up to 10, but still the rain will stick around. And that's what you can expect at least for the next 7 days. Now, when traveling on a plane, you'd never expect to be seated outside the aircraft, I'm sure. But in Victoria's Inner Harbor, there's a passenger who does just that.
Trumpeter swan. It's the crazy trumpeter swan.
Locals working in the area call the bird Swanson. Now, there's a theory floating about that the float plane may just resemble a former partner of Swanson's. It might not be easy to spot the bird, but if you find yourself on a Harbor Air flight, it might be worth looking out for the extra set of wings. I know I'll be looking. That's your late news for this chilly Saturday. Bundle up, and before you let that head hit the pillow, here's one piece of advice. Take one last look at what else is making headlines on cbc.ca/BC. And we're going to leave you with some beautiful sights and sounds from this weekend's Hobier festivities. Enjoy and have a good night.